chilly temperatures here in Cleveland today, low 40s, but these two teams about to get this thing heated up. Alabama and St. Mary's, the waiting is over. Nate Oates, the 50-year-old head coach, year 6 in Tuscaloosa, going to exchange wits with the great Randy Bennett. So much respect between those two. We'll get into their story a little bit as the night goes on. Good news for Nate Oates today. Of course, he got Grant Nelson back in the lineup the other night. He didn't play until the second half with that thing a little bit closer than they expected against Robert Morris. He's back in his starting role tonight. And there's Randy Bennett, 24th year at the helm in Moraga. This perennial power that he has built out of the WCC, and we're off and running here in Cleveland.
Yeah, and having Nelson back on the floor for Alabama will allow them to go to their normal rotations too, which I think is important, especially when we get our first round of substitutions.
LeBaron Philon to the cup, left-handed finish, missed it, and its last touch out of bounds underneath. Our officials, Don Daly, Raina Tilley, Randy Richardson. And which of these two teams, Jim, we hit it at the top, who can impose their will in terms of the pace? Prolific offense for Alabama and this rugged defense for the Gales.
Well, statistically, Nate Oates knows, and I think we'd all agree, they're probably not going to get that many possessions that they normally get in a game because of this style in the half court.
Here comes Marshall Lonis to the rack. Had to deal with the foul trouble in their first-round win over Vanderbilt, as Philon had it knocked out of his hands. Sears going to shoot. A little bit too much. Offensive rebound, Nelson. Youngblood.
There's the impact of Nelson right off the bat, also getting that offensive rebound and just handing it off to Youngblood.
Alabama dispatching Robert Morris in the first round. A game that was really close.
Yes, it was.
Closer than people could have expected. They won it by 9 to get themselves one step away from a Sweet 16.
Open shot in the corner here.
That's Morauskas. Really struggled from the field the other night.
Sure did.
Key contributor all season for Randy Bennett in his first year in the program.
Yeah, only 1 for 9 the other night. So guys who struggle in the first game on Friday have to pick it up.
But look at Nelson already putting his imprint on this game for Alabama.
Yeah, he played 7 minutes in the first game and had an impact. Oh, that's going to be a bump out front by Youngblood.
So Youngblood will be whistled for the reach as we check the tournament summary early couple of minutes into this one. Interesting day. Great game earlier between Connecticut and Florida.
That was a fun game to watch, wasn't it?
We know you like the colors, Jim, the mascots.
Are all... We got problems. Although Houston, we don't have problems because they're still doing pretty well.
Indeed, they look healthy.
Yes, they do.
As fierce as they've ever been under Kelvin Sampson. Here's Jordan Ross. Boy, they may not be here without him the other night with the foul trouble that Marshall Lonis had to experience. Here comes Sears. Kicks back. This is Philon. Missed it at the cup.
There's some size in there with Saxon. He was a factor defensively.
Saxon, a 2-time defensive player of the year in the West Coast Conference, anchors the middle for St. Mary's. So early struggles with the shooting again for St. Mary's. Ross underneath. Marshall Lonis. Back of the rim, and the officials are going to get a loose ball foul against Alabama.
Spiro, I'm looking over at the Alabama bench right now, way down to the other side on the left of Nate Oates. And here's that push down in the middle of the floor. Good call, not allowing Sears to get any position. Amore looks like he's stretching out his leg over there. And a quick substitution for him. He had a big-time game. There's a big-time jam.
So finally, the Gales get their first points, and they get it emphatically.
You see that play right there as Philon went down the court just then. They were lobbing that up to Omori the other night. And here's that little cut to the basket. You see him right here going down. Nice finish.
So not a good look there for Alabama with Omori, who was so good the other night in their first round win over Robert Morris.
I didn't catch anything with him in the traffic, but he was only out there for a minute and a half or so.
Saxon, those defensive instincts, pokes it away. Ross in the transition, but Bama able to get back. Saxon on the attack. Excellent defense. Nelson.
Might still be their ball, Alabama. He took a throw to try to just hit it off the legs.
All the different ways that Nelson helps this Alabama team is just incredible.
Yeah, maybe get a block shot with that, but a lot of the things he does not show up in the stat sheet. He's just really a team player who makes a lot of good effort plays that help them win.
See both teams struggling with the shot, but that's an encouraging sign for the Gales. This high-powered Alabama offense. Youngblood. Double transfer coming over from South Florida. And it's a 3-point Alabama lead.
You know, interesting enough with St. Mary's the other night, the longer possessions, yeah, they didn't have as much success as the shorter possessions in time-wise.
Marshallonis gets his first points of the night. The Abate into the corner now. They're going to reset to Aiden Holloway. Nelson from the corner.
Good work on the glass just then.
These are two of the top 10 rebounding teams. We know about St. Mary's, but Alabama's right there as well in terms of rebound margin as Morawski is camping out underneath, going to shoot free throws.
It's a little isolation down there, and they found him with the high-low.
Early stages and feeling out process. St. Mary's and Alabama under the bright lights. Here in Cleveland, early 1-point lead for Alabama. He sleeps in May, ladies and gentlemen, as we say hello to John Rothstein.
Hey, Spiro, we got two coaches tonight trying to get their programs back to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. Alabama and Nate Oates trying to advance to the Sweet 16 for the third straight year for the first time in program history. Meanwhile, St. Mary's and Randy Bennett trying to get back to the second weekend for the first time since 2010. A lot to play for as expected tonight, Spiro, tonight here in Cleveland.
All right, John, and Randy had a chance to visit with him yesterday. Says that 2010 team still talked about, beloved out in Moraga with what they accomplished. Can this Gales team write its own script and its own tournament history? Second round coverage of the NCAA Division I Women's Basketball Championship continues tonight. ABC and the ESPN networks. For more information on game times and listings, go to ncaa.com. Jim, your early thoughts. 1-point lead for St. Mary's.
I think St. Mary's, it's a simple thing that's been said over and over again in basketball. Morawski's getting 2 free throws to go down after his first game Friday night. That may clear his head just a little bit. We'll soon find out.
Good news for the Crimson Tide as Diabate able to collect and lays it in. Good news for the Tide. Omari is back into the game. Had to leave as he hobbled off, but he's back.
Stevenson out there, who is also 6'11". Diabate was just fabulous the other night at 18 points, 8 of 10 from the floor. He really gave them a big lift.
Here's Morawski's off balance with a little hook shot. Saxon, all that length. But Alabama is able to control.
Look at the balance, though, with the transition. Look at all the red jerseys.
Here comes Sears. So crafty.
And he's so timely with his drives to the basket. He waited till everybody fanned out. St. Mary's had decent defensive transition going on that possession, but he waited and then came down the floor at his pace.
Here comes Ross probing in the paint. Nice. This is the little floater. Barrett on a flick. St. Mary's now 2 of 10 from the field. Sears.
And Ross is limping up and down the floor right now. Something up with him. He's pointing to the bench to get a substitution for him way on the right-hand side there. You see him walking off over here.
Well, that would be a gigantic loss for the Gales if he is unable to continue, as they will take a closer look now at Ross.
Watch him here. He gets this rebound when he comes down. Yep, he's right on the foot. Left foot.
But boy, had the presence of mind
to rebound it. Yeah.
So they're going to take him into the locker room to take a closer look.
If it's not real serious, then what they'll do back there is they'll retape him or tape on top of the tape he probably has on his ankle already to strengthen that a little bit. But he played well the other night.
After Marshallonis picked up his 4th foul early in the second half, Barrett launches. Can this team shoot the three-pointer with some efficiency tonight? Hasn't been the case the last couple of weeks. as Diabate pleads for a foul.
Yeah, I think St. Mary's, they had success the other night with pushing the ball up the floor a little bit. They're going high-low. Nice catch.
Wessels in traffic flicks it up. Let's see if they get Stevenson underneath with Diabate coming to help.
Yeah, when you look at him park it in here, he's getting that basketball over the top. Now watch all the trouble he has because there's hands all over it trying to get it up, but it's a nice delivery from the top. Pretty good having two big guys who understand exactly how to play the high-low, because generally speaking, when you have one of the 7-footers or thereabouts out on the top, you either have an advantage of size down low or an advantage of size up high getting the pass over the top.
So Harry Wessels, the junior, another Australian national for Randy Bennett, a pipeline to that country that he has built. 9th in the WCC in blocks. He's become a mainstay for this program. His 97 start and I should say 97 game played in the last 3 years. And they're going to need all that size and physicality against this Alabama team.
Whoa, that's up for grabs if somebody wants it. There you go.
Barrett getting his hands dirty. Marshallonis getting a high screen pick and roll action. What a pass underneath. Saxon to Wessels.
These guys haven't met one another yesterday. That was perfectly executed. 3 guys involved with it.
Look at Sears, just relentless to the cup. And Mark Sears now over 1,900 career points, Jim. He's only the 4th guy in the history of the school to achieve that mark.
And they may have to jump him on the left side. I know he can go right, but get him away from his power hand. But it's swiped down by Sears.
And they get the reach in with Marshallonis attacking. Let's check in with John.
All right, Spiro. Well, St. Mary's officials just told me that Jordan Ross is now moving around. He's going to try and come back with a left ankle injury and give it a go. You can see he's moving around right now on the bench.
All right, John, big call here as Mark Sears has just whistled for his 2nd, and that is a huge call early in this game.
Absolutely is. It'll be interesting to see how Nate Oates plays this.
So Sears is going to sit.
Yep.
And LeBaron Filon is going to check in after a quick rest. From tip to the final buzzer, fan work is thirsty work. For fresh with Coke Zero Sugar. Is it the best Coke ever?
So at under 13 and a half minutes, Sears goes out at 13:23. Let's see how long Nate Oates leaves him on the bench. We'll see how the score turns out.
So Holloway a little bit more on his shoulders now. Marshallonis, Jim, that's one that you just don't need if you're Randy Bennett. Remember Marshallonis, the foul trouble that they had to contend with the other night against Vanderbilt.
So now you go from a very experienced guy in Sears on the bench to number 0 with the ball, Filon, who's just a freshman. And number 2 has the ball now, Holloway, who's a sophomore. So a little difference in terms of experience, what you say?
Aiden Sherrill has also come into the game now. Another freshman for Nate Oates. 5 to shoot. Omori, Holloway has to hurry. They bother him there. Mikey Lewis, and it's a turnover.
See the reaction by Lewis just then. He's pointing down. He's playing official when this ball comes around. And let's just see what happens right there. They get hit, and watch him go, whoop, we're going down this side. He's making the call there because he's made the defensive effort with his teammate to close that drive down.
And look at the turnovers that St. Mary's has forced. Again, #1 offense is Alabama in the country. So an interesting start. Here comes Barrett, the kick. Lewis
can light it up.
Rebound, Filon ahead of the field. Holloway streaking underneath. What a finish!
Holloway.
And Marshallonis, I guess, made a smart play when you think about it, just giving up that bucket and don't pick up another foul.
Holloway among the top scoring sixth men in the country this season for Nate Oates. Here comes Lewis, stops on a dime, resets. Barrett. As we hit the 12-minute mark, Barrett under control. Boy, a thing of beauty.
I just love the way he plays with the intensity that he goes after things. He had 12 points the other night. He backed it up with 10 rebounds also. Look at this one.
Holloway a little bit out of control. The rebound corralled underneath.
There's some opportunities to get quicker points. Watch out.
Filon got him. As Lewis trying to force the issue, and everyone's going to catch their breath. Pace starts to quicken a bit here in Cleveland. The Gales and the Crimson Tide in a fight. all tied.
All right, back here in Cleveland, all tied up. Nate, how do you speed this thing up?
I mean, it's sped up enough. We just got to make our layups and quit turning the ball over. We don't have to speed it up to the point we're turning it over. So we got to get some stops, some rebounds. I'm not unhappy with the pace. We're not going to do stupid stuff and gamble to create pace on defense. We got to convert on offense. Stop turning the ball over. That's our problem right now.
Appreciate it.
All right, John, the picture of intensity. Nate Oates, had a chance to visit with him yesterday. Of course, a Midwestern guy, Wisconsin guy. He watched all those Bill Ryan teams over the years. He has such a deep appreciation for what Randy Bennett has built. Kind of this mid-major, if you will, Moraga. And he knows he was going to have his hands full with this really smart, Jim, experienced, veteran-laden St. Mary's team.
Yeah, and I'll go back to that point we touched on just a little bit before with St. Mary's. They had 26 possessions of over 20 seconds the other day, and they had only 22 points. The shorter possessions were much more profitable for them with 37 points. So I would like to see them, and I think they're going to mix it up a little bit and blend the half court with the uptick in shorter possessions.
Mikey Lewis bounces across the paint. Wessels, tough shot, well challenged by Omori. And St. Mary's comes up empty. Nelson is going to hoist that. He sticks it. What a start for Nelson. Appears to be fully back from that left knee injury that he sustained in the SEC tournament.
And I think in his mind, he should be able to get those shots that he just took from there. You're not a great percentage-wise shooter, good-looking form. He's under 30%, but I don't think the centers are going to come out and guard him on the perimeter there.
St. Mary's meantime 4 of 16 from the field. They're 0 of 4 from 3. Shot clock at 7. Marcialonis probing.
Look at this.
A lot of real estate. He covers, extends with the leaner. Wessels, no. And then last touch here by Youngblood. So a fresh shot clock for the Gales.
Yeah, he did the old circling around the entire court from left to right there, but nobody left him defensively. As Russ comes back in, a good sign.
So they get that ankle retaped. And Marcialonis is going to sit down. Marcialonis, one of his first 4 3-points. So we come up on the midway point of the first half. Can this Gales offense get going? Wow. What defense? Wessels, no. After Lewis was turned back by Phylon.
Got some numbers here.
On the push back door, it's Reed.
Good push. A couple of St. Mary's players got caught under the basket at their offensive end of the floor. Opened up the nice running lanes for Alabama.
It's one thing about this Bama team, a little bit more balance with the way they score. A little bit more in the transition game to supplement what they do with the 3-point shot. Wessels outside to Barrett. Into the paint. They've had a couple of really good looks. They just can't finish underneath. Who touched it last? St. Mary's.
And Maury is being a factor defensively. A couple of trips here. They're looking at, you're right, they're getting good looking shots in terms of being in there, and see what happens here.
So St. Mary's is now 4 for 20 as we check in with John.
Well, guys, Randy Bennett has shifted to that 2-big lineup we talked about the other day with Wessels and Saxon. They worked on that in the preseason, but Nate Oates countering with Aiden Sherrill. A lot of people on Alabama staff feels like he's the wild card.
Early danger zone now, John, as they hit that 3-pointer. Beautiful looking stroke with Youngblood. And he's now 3 of his first 3. That was his second triple already. Saxon, big sequence for the Gales. A little bit of contact, and he puts it down.
I was going to say, between him and Wessels, they have to convert some of those easier shots down there. Now, I know they're being contested, and nothing is easy. Nice hands by Saxon in the middle. And a good rip out right there, because Marcialonis sat down on the bench for about a minute, and then Randy Bennett said, after the little run by Alabama, okay, get up and get back in that game. He's waiting to get in.
St. Mary's hasn't turned it over yet. That last Saxon bucket ending an 8-0 Bama run. Lewis, big shot.
That's what I think is very important for this team. If they can get a nice lift from him, he averages just under 9 points a game, but he's a streaky, lighted up type player and shooter. Look at the strength here.
Youngblood, turn back, Lewis. Boy, but Youngblood is just so crafty, able to get Lewis to bite. Tough sequence for the Gales with Youngblood about to step to the free throw line for Alabama.
You see him in there. He's really, watch the strength take over, and he doesn't really get phased by it too much. Lewis has given up about 40 pounds to this guy here at the line, who's 6'4", 223.
Youngblood was terrific in their first round victory over Robert Morris, and he has picked up right where he left off. Get more sports coverage than ever before in the Bleacher Report app. Be sure to download the all-new Bleacher Report app today. Chris Youngblood, young man from Tuscaloosa, graduate, double transfer, started at Kennesaw State, and then what a run at South Florida, where he was the co-player of the year in the American last season, a Bulls team that won the regular season title. Jim averaged better than 15 points per game, and he has added another element to Nate Oates' bunch.
And he quietly gets his 10 points a game on average with his team, with a bunch of guys supporting Sears with the ability to score points, obviously, as they get up and down with the 91 that they average.
So a 6-point game. Morawski's going to get him reset. This is Barrett. 10 to shoot.
Little size advantage here if he can step in and get that shot off.
Morawskis isolated, goes glass over Youngblood.
Yeah, he's got to start building on shots and building on his confidence to get things going for him. It's a different look for St. Mary's if he's getting the ball to go down.
5-long lead pass, Reed extending. They're going to get sacks in here. So Alabama playing this long stretch without their All-American Sears. And right now, hanging tough. They got a 4-point lead as we cross the 8-minute mark before halftime.
All right, welcome back to Cleveland, Alabama by 4. Randy, how did they sped this thing up the last couple of minutes?
They're just kind of relentless at penetrating. They just keep coming at you. You can be back, building walls, having guys back, and they'll still try and get to the rim. And their guards are really quick. So we made some mistakes on some of that, but we just have to do a better job of getting bodies in front of the ball.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, John, what a coaching performance again by Randy Bennett and his staff. 17 conference wins, most ever at the school. They finished 20th in the AP poll. Last 10 years, Jim, 4th highest winning percentage of any Division I program in the country. Just incredible.
Yeah, tremendously successful coach and program, and he's right about Alabama for sure. You know, once you think you stop them as they start to penetrate, you cannot relax as a defensive player because they'll continue to either swing the ball or that guy with the ball may just very well take a second chance at going to the basket against you.
And as Randy Bennett said yesterday, look, we know how great this Alabama team is, but we feel good about our group. Senior-laden team. This is the 3rd time into the round of 32 with this core group of Gales as St. Mary's touches it last. Actually, now they're going to give it. What's the call here? Yeah, it's going to stay here with Bama.
The substitution with Sears coming in right now.
So there's that, that familiarity with this moment. You get past the first round, all the nerves, the jitters going into the tournament. It feels like his group can settle in here as they face their biggest test of the season by far.
Nice tip there from behind just then. Was it Barrett? Yep, it was Barrett who got the tip from behind.
And that's the test of wills that we hit on at the top. Who can dictate the pace? St. Mary's forcing the 7th Alabama turnover. Saxon, full extension.
Now they're starting to deliver some points with the big guys in the paint. And once again, the setups are just incredible in terms of the timing of the play.
Diabate, boy, he is the X factor for this Alabama team. When he's hot, they're just a different bunch. So many things that he brings to the table for Nate Oates.
It's that scoring, but I also think it's the energy at both ends of the floor. Well,
Morawskis had a long runway, but they closed quickly. Excellent defense by Nelson, trying to keep his feet. Got a piece.
Never budge, Nelson. Sears has to be careful with the charges coming down the floor.
Into the corner. That's a 3. Won't go for Holloway. And Bama 1 and done. So we crossed the 7-minute mark before halftime. Alabama and St. Mary's with the winner moving on to Newark, New Jersey in the Sweet 16 next week. Ross going to skip it. Morawskis into the 3. St. Mary's is 0 for 5 from deep.
And the looks they're getting are offensive good looks.
Wow. Excellent defense by Ross.
Sears just trying to put that shoulder down a little bit. He's got to be very, very careful with the drives like that. Once again, maybe jump him on the left side, force him to his right. I know he's a great, great player, but force a guy to his non-strong hand.
If you just hopped on with us, Sears picked up his second personal at the 13-minute mark. He sat for a good stretch. And now back into the game for Nate Oates. Here's Ross. The shiftiness, the fade, a little bit too much. Rebound Diabate.
I think he could have pulled that out because they would have had a mismatch with Saxon on Sears.
Sears, boy, smart look underneath to Diabate.
Yeah, they convert it. Randy Bennett knows that they had an opportunity to get Sears one-on-one against the big down on the blocks. They missed it, and Alabama just keeps going down the floor against them.
It's the Arcade, a historic site here in downtown Cleveland. As we check our game summary. Early numbers in this one, 8-point Alabama lead. Turnovers, but this kid Chris Youngblood, the second straight strong start for Alabama.
Yeah, good effort so far. Uses that strength here to post up and get that done, and then he can also step outside if you're not with him to shoot it from long range. I like the way he played in the first game, and I like the way he's been playing here in the second. He's really been a factor with his 10 points tonight, matching his season average.
Again, these offensive droughts, that's always the concern with St. Mary's. You know how elite they are defensively, but against a team like Alabama that just keeps coming and they're scoring droves, can the Gales stay within striking distance? If you've just joined us, they're shooting sub 30% as they turn to Saxon. He elevates. They've missed a lot of chippies under there. And the rebound by Sherrell. Let's check in with John.
Well, guys, you're talking about Chris Youngblood. This is a really good sign for Alabama. When Youngblood scores in double figures this season, Alabama is 9-1, Jim.
Not too bad there, John. The way he plays, I can understand that because he actually, in a small type of way, is like a leader for them with the way he gets things done.
Here's Marshall Lonis underneath. Good movement. This is Barrett. Slithers inside. No.
Just cannot find the shot to go down. I guess it's worth mentioning that they only scored 22 points in the first half of the first game they played against Vanderbilt. And now they're stuck on 21 right now. I'm sure they'll get more than 22, but it's just, I think it's a good indication of how they're struggling to score.
Marshall Lonis into the paint, misses badly.
And switched to his left hand. I don't think he had to. The defender fell back. Upstairs.
Alabama! Nasty put down. It's Omori.
He actually stole that from Stevenson also, because I think it could have gone to either one of those two. Now you have to find some points. If you're St. Mary's, you have to find some points.
Well, the Gales right now a little bit staggered back onto the ropes. Largest lead of the half for Alabama. Marshall Lonis, pick and roll action, leading Wessels, misses underneath Saxon, and he's going to shoot free throws.
So watch as they come down the floor. Here's the alley-oop. Morey in front and Stevenson behind him. If he doesn't get it, the second guy in would have gotten it. So you only get 2 points on it. If I was Stevenson, I'd say lay back. I wanted that bucket.
Well, Morey was sensational the other night as Mitchell Saxon steps up to the free throw line. Seattle product, graduate player, first team All-WCC each of the last 3 years, two-time reigning defensive player of the year. School record for games played and victories.
Just a little over. There it is, 50% from the free throw line, around 52. So he goes 1 for 2 on his average. See how he likes to go left here and set people up.
Sherrell, and that's a travel. Well, I guess the most positive thing for Randy Bennett, despite this 26% shooting, St. Mary's only down 9 points. Here in Cleveland, it's Power Forward, presented by Nissan.
They rebound and they run, and when they get it going in the open floor, that's where they are very difficult. And the other thing, they average 16 assists per game, so they're very unselfish. They don't care who scores, just as long as they score on the break. Well done, and again, they continue to keep coming at you. Look at the fast break points. Not dramatic, but 6 to 0. And that's all on rebounding too, Spiro, because St. Mary's hasn't turned the ball over yet.
Interesting number. St. Mary's #1 rebounding team margin-wise, plus 13 on the season. Today they're -7 against this rugged Alabama rebounding team.
About half of their possessions, they've had trouble trying to break down this Alabama defense.
Marshallonis picks up the dribble, 6 on the timer. Here comes Barrett slithering inside, underneath. How many layups have the Gales missed?
I actually think Amore got a finger on that on the way up just then.
Phylon, pretty floater. And it's back to a double-digit lead.
Once again, we keep repeating ourselves, but it's Alabama just... Nate Oates doing a very good job. He's protecting Sears on the bench right now, but the guard play, the young guard play in particular, is very, very good in terms of just running the show without Sears on the floor.
So we hit the 3-minute mark now before halftime. Who do the Gales turn to for offense? Marshallonis misses in tight. Fight for it, Barrett, and they're going to get fouled on a reach-in.
Pretty good move right there by Barrett, too, going towards half court, because he could have gone into the back court on that tip out. So watch where he ends up running out. He runs out.
So that puts Alabama over the limit. And now St. Mary's into the bonus. Does that get their offense going now, Jim?
Well, they just need something to get it going. They only shoot it at 69% on the season. So every time they get to the line, they have to convert.
So Luke Barrett out of East Bay, just outside Oakland at the free throw line. A reminder to keep it here. Coming up, AT&T at the half. We'll get you all the scores and highlights, plus the latest NCAA tournament news. It's all to come on AT&T at the half. Downtown Cleveland, Alabama, the #2 in the East region, trying to get to a Sweet 16 for what would be the 3rd straight year and the 4th time in their last 5 years under Nate Oates. St. Mary's just trying to keep it close despite some offensive issues. Holloway able to draw some contact.
Nice little tricky move just then by Holloway when you watch him as a young guard. Watch how he freezes the defender right behind him, right there. Can't get in front of him. And just gets knocked to the floor. St. Mary's only blocks 4 shots per game, so you know Alabama's going to continue to attack that rim.
Told you about just how prolific a season this young man had. Born in Charlotte, sophomore, first year in the program after playing last year for Bruce Pearl in Auburn, where he averaged better than 7 points per game. Among the highest scoring 6th men in the country this year. He was 2nd among SEC reserves. Offensive rebound, Omari, and we're going to get a jump, and it's Alabama basketball. And Omari gets his bunch an extra possession. Another look at where these two teams sit in the bracket. Winner moving on. And they will take on a really good BYU team that's playing with some serious confidence. Youngblood off glass from the corner, just an impossible shot.
I thought my eyes were going on me and deceiving me.
And the scoring drought for St. Mary's. Down 13. Here comes Ross.
They need somebody to start hitting some shots. Pushed by Youngblood.
Wessels and Youngblood jawing at each other. So Wessels to the free throw line.
Very, very difficult to do that, Spiro. I'll give you 100 shots down there, and I'll bet you can't hit one of them.
I may need 1,000.
That is very difficult to do from that angle, to hit it on that part of the glass and get it to go in.
So Youngblood will sit. That was his 2nd personal. 1-and-1 here for Wessels. Good 83% free throw shooter. 76% for his career. And how does St. Mary's navigate this now? Down a dozen with 2:10 left.
I think you balance the floor defensively, make sure they don't get any runouts, because you don't have to worry about them. They haven't turned the ball over, so they haven't had problems with that. But make sure you keep it on the outside as best as you can. But Alabama is so patient, too.
Phylon collects. Misses on a 3, and it's going to ricochet into the corner out of bounds.
So that's not bad, the first start right there, because you get a guy shooting it at 30%. Why not? Pack the middle of the floor, get a couple more possessions here. Maybe you get this under 10.
So Diabate back in for Nate Oates. Omori sits. So he'll have Nelson with Stevenson and Diabate up front. Randy Bennett sizes up that Alabama team as he paces in front of the St. Mary's bench. Now the officials will have a conversation.
I think they're tending to Omori again over there, but I don't think it's the leg this time.
He's taken his seat at the end of the Bama bench.
Yeah, he was looking at touching his nose a little bit, or the side of his right side of his head, but it wasn't the leg where he went out in about the first 2 minutes of this game. You see that little hedge right there just to take some time off the clock, which St. Mary's is comfortable playing in, but got to go quickly with this shot.
Wessels on the box, working hard against Nelson.
Catch it and go. I mean, there's too many guys who can come in and help and block shots there. You get it? One dribble to max and then go after the rim.
But look at the hesitation maneuver. What a finish by Holloway, showing the handle.
Yeah, and that was the understanding, too, of having a big guy come out and try to stop him. A 7'1" guy is not going to be able to do that. Totally unfair to ask him to try to do that. Get up high. Oh, hold down low. Nice. That was a good read right there. A little high-low action. Alabama had to switch. They had Holloway down low, and you go up top and try to get your big guy at 7'1", a little opportunity.
9th team foul against Alabama, so still a 1-and-1 here as Wessels will step to the free throw line with St. Mary's in a 12-point hole. 1:12 left in this opening half from Cleveland. It was interesting. These two teams were actually on a collision course to meet last year in the NCAA tournament in the second round, but St. Mary's was upset by that really good Grand Canyon team, a 12 seed last year, ending their bid. A lot of people felt like this team even better in terms of the firepower, the experience that they've got with their 3 seniors led by Marshallonis, but obviously they've run into a buzzsaw here in Alabama.
And Alabama has turned it over the 8 times to 0 for St. Mary's. But they've still been able to fire up 39 points so far in the half.
3-point shooting has been a difference. Alabama 5 of 9, and St. Mary's hasn't hit a 3 yet. 0 for 6. Under a minute left in the half. Here comes Phylon, turn to the corner. No. Nelson.
There's the factor. He came out and set that high screen, and you just don't sit out there if you're a big guy. You watch your guard go to the hoop because you know they're going to be rotating defenders at him, and there's going to be some seams for some offensive glass. Real smart play there by Nelson.
Augustus Marshallonis, 2-time player of the year in the WCC, just 1 of 6 shooting. He does have a couple of assists, but they need some scoring from their star. Alabama is out of fouls, 8 to shoot. Marshallonis looking for some daylight. Wessels extends. Diabate.
They have a foul to give if they want to use it.
Plenty of time. Nelson underneath, and he's going to shoot free throws. And that could not have worked out any better for the Crimson Tide.
You think you're getting into a spot right here where you challenge your 7'1" guy, and what happens? They get you on the way up right there. Beautifully done. Diabate just continues his great play tonight versus and continued from Friday.
Jimmy, just wonder what Randy Bennett and his staff can talk about in terms of strategy at halftime to just try to get their offense jump-started.
Yeah, it's hard to change it on the fly like this in this type of game, but he's got to hope they hit some shots. I think he'll mention that to them.
Boy, we're going to get a lane violation here against the Gales. Just can ill afford to give up any more free points. Another free throw opportunity for Nelson with 1.5 seconds. And the frustration for Randy Bennett and his bunch continues. Nelson back in his starting role, dealing with that left knee injury, and he's got a friendly bounce. So a 13-point game. Lewis will get us to halftime here in Cleveland, where the Gales are going to have to hit the drawing board, down double digits against this vaunted Alabama attack. 42-29 as we reach halftime. Chris Youngblood standing by with John Rothstein.
Chris, did you call glass on that three from the corner?
Mid-air, I might have said something, but yeah, that was a crazy shot. I just smiled out there.
Why has your defense frustrated them so much the last 5 or 6 minutes?
That was the whole point of emphasis of the game, to speed them up. You know they want to slow the game out, low possession game, so just use our length, athleticism, and speed them up.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Spiro.
All right, John, tremendous performance by Youngblood as he and the Crimson Tide take a 13-point lead into the halftime locker room. We'll get you to AT&T in the half after these messages. You're watching the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship. All set for the final 20 here in Cleveland as we take a little peek at our first half stats, sponsored by Invesco QQQ. That hard shooting by St. Mary's, really the headline. 0 of 6 from 3. They shot 25%. As we welcome you back to downtown Cleveland. Spiro Ditas, Jim Spanarkel. We'll hear from John Rothstein here in just a couple of seconds. We saw Randy Bennett's team come back the other night against Vanderbilt. Now they got to dig deep again and do it against an even better team.
Yeah, the one thing about Alabama is we've been speaking about how they go up and down the floor and score. They've gone over 100 points this year 8 times, Spiro, but one of the things you forget to mention a lot is they clamp down on you at the defensive end. So St. Mary's has to figure this out in a hurry and make some of those close-up shots that they missed in the first half.
We know they're a senior-laden team, and they're going to be leaning on some of those upperclassmen here. A couple of seconds ago, John Rothstein with Augustus Marshallonis outside their locker room.
So how do you guys get back in this game?
Start making shots and not let them run in transition, and just be better defensively and make the simple, easy shots, layups.
How do you get easy shots against their defense?
I feel like we were pretty good with getting those like good looks. We just couldn't make them, couldn't finish the shots. So I feel like we just have to, I don't know if it's like just like gotta focus better or whatever it is, but we just gotta bank shots because it's a big game and we need to step it up in the second half.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
He has been a focal point of Alabama's defense, Jim, so far.
Yeah, just watch the way they track him. That's a tough shot with his left hand. Now he goes around the corner and coming down. He's somebody in the middle. I don't know why he shot that one with the left hand. He could have taken that with his right to make it life a little bit easier for himself.
Marshallonis 1 of 6 shooting in the first half. Jordan Ross was 0 for 5. Morauskas, who struggled the other night, 1 for 5. So really collectively, no one having a good night till this point. Can it turn for the Gales?
I think you run your sets until you get something to drop.
Marshallonis misses in tight.
It's amazing. It's just the same pattern right there. It's only one shot, but nice look.
Nelson, excellent movement. Youngblood, they're going to get him reset.
Here he goes to his left again.
Sears missed it. And who touched it last? It's off of Alabama. So Mark Sears shows you the depth of this Alabama team, Jim. He's only 2 of 8, but no problem. Everyone else picking up the slack with a 13-point lead.
Yeah, they love the opportunity to get the extra minutes, especially the young guards.
Ross, big shot for the Gales.
And that's why I think you just continue to run your sets. You run them hard with some extra oomph behind it, and maybe you'll get a couple of free looks.
Sears on the collection, a little bit too much from deep, and it's last touched by Alabama. So 3 trips and no points. And you see Alabama first half working quickly.
And they're going to force the action if they continue this to have St. Mary's pick up their action a little bit quicker. Right now you don't have to do it. You can come out here, run your sets, and try to chip away. Got to get a little better accuracy on these shots, though.
Ross gets a high screen underneath, and that's a floater.
Oh, and that was a shifted quick to the right hand. His weak side hand threw Amore off. He was getting ready to go up, but that shot went up so quickly it threw the defender off.
Remember, it was Ross who keyed their second half run the other night in the first round against Vanderbilt. There is Amore.
And that is Nelson again, knowing exactly where his partner's going to be when he drives to the basket. Just a beautiful dish to set up the dunk.
Omari the other night was just sensational. 17 points. Boy, pretty spin. Saxon couldn't finish, and then it's Barrett underneath.
Yeah, I think Saxon is looking for the defenders too much instead of looking for the rim. Don't worry about if they're going to block it, they're going to block it, but you have to throw those shoulders at the tin to make things happen.
Half dozen for Barrett as the Gales have scored now on 3 straight trips. Omari starting to come alive. Quiet first half. The other night he did most of his damage in the first half in the win against Robert Morris. 15 of his 17.
So 8 of 8 from the floor too.
Just under the 3-minute mark gone by. Morawski's going to shoot the 3. No. Offensive rebound, Barrett.
He's just around the ball all the time, Barrett.
St. Mary's has yet to hit a 3 tonight. They're 0 for 7. Just incredible. Ross, way too much.
Yep, another switch to the right hand.
Nelson.
Good block out. Saxon just then.
Able to keep Omari on his back.
Go all the way. If you can get a seam, you have to try to challenge some people off the dribble.
Saxon need it badly.
See the instincts just then? When he caught the basketball, he turned and he shot the ball. He didn't look for the defender or hesitate.
Nelson, boy, underneath. Beautiful little fake. Gets the defender to bite, and Grant Nelson will step to the free throw line for Alabama.
It's the quickest that you go, and he held that, looked like he held that close to a walk, but he held that left pivot foot down, I believe.
Just think of how valuable he was, Jim, during their run to the Final Four last year. And what was his first year in the program after the transfer, 3 years to begin his collegiate run at North Dakota State. And I'm happy to have him back healthy from that left knee tweak. You can watch live men's games on your computer, phone, tablet, or streaming device with NCAA March Madness Live. Download today.
And remember the game against Robert Morris, who gave them a pretty good run into the middle of the second half there and beyond. He got up off the bench and said to Nate Oates, put me into the game. He wanted to play because they both understood that that game was more challenging than what they had hoped for a first-round game.
Nelson back in his usual starting role tonight. And he's given Alabama an 11-point lead. Then the winner of this game moving on to Newark, New Jersey in the Sweet 16 next week. Saxon contact. And he's got a chance at 3.
And Marshall Onis has been over on the right side of the floor, letting these guys operate. Finally, watch the spin move here. He's going to take it around, make something happen. Then you square your shoulders, and he gets up a very soft touch. That shot did not go in the first half, by the way. Those types of shots were rolling off on them, so maybe they'll get, quote-unquote, some lucky breaks to get some shots to go.
Jim, that's the 3rd personal against Mark Sears, as Wessels will come in here for Randy Bennett. No substitution yet from Nate Oates. Looks like he's going to keep Sears in. And one thing about St. Mary's, all the bad shooting we're seeing from them, they're not a team that's going to fold. So much experience from seniors. They didn't panic the other night against Vanderbilt. They were down 12 in that game. Marshallonis, the foul trouble, and they didn't blink.
I don't expect them to blink. It's just that they have to control the fast breaks.
This is the Abate misses at the rim. Well challenged, Saxon and Wessels.
Like 2 guys just then, Spiro, so that made a big difference. Now they have to come down and just chip away. Make sure they're running this stuff. Here's the big guy on the blocks. Give him some room.
Wessels, Nelson on his back, leads in, chisels his way. And this St. Mary's offense, much different unit so far.
Did you notice that body bump also? Right as before he got into his shot, big guy just threw the shoulder a little bit. It made a big difference in getting that shot off.
The Abate from 3, splash.
Well, you just cannot leave him alone. He has proven that.
10-point game. Look at the 3-point discrepancy. Good news for St. Mary's, though. Overall shooting in the half so far since halftime, they're 6 of 10, as the officials are going to get Nelson on the perimeter. St. Mary's just trying to stay within striking distance against this high-powered Alabama bunch. 10-point game on TNT. All right, Jamie, we'll see who moves on. Boy, Death, Taxes, and Rick Barnes' Tennessee teams winning in March as they await the winner of that one. We got some incredible potential matchups next week in the Sweet 16.
You have until April 15th for your taxes, though. Just so you
Always a finance guy. I love it. Russ, top of the perimeter against Holloway. Gets a screen. Saxon frees him up. Boy, what a difference a half makes for this Randy Bennett offense.
And what a difference a great screen makes, like you just touched on.
Stevenson, errant delivery on the handoff, trying to get it to Phylon. And Alabama getting sloppy with it. Get complete coverage of the NCAA Division I Women's Tournament at NCAA.com.
The contrast of offense, right, with St. Mary's here in the second, you can see that they have better bounce, better confidence compared to when they were missing all those 5-footers and in. In the first half, they looked like they were just like out of it a bit. Wow, what a block.
Boy, Diabate got a piece. The tip by Wessels, no. And Phylon tracks it down. Phylon gets it back. The freshman.
Nice step in
Alabama kid on Nate Oates' roster here. Last touch underneath by the Gales with 18 seconds to shoot.
Yeah, the Gales just have a better step in terms of collectively looking for the ball, going after it. Their offensive sets are better.
This is Diabate, bodied up by Saxon. Phylon into the paint. Boy, working hard against Marshallonis.
May have seen Marshallonis look at his two bigs just then. He said, like, where were you guys? I did my job to kind of slow him down. He reverses. Both big guys vacated at the same time.
Whistle here, a little bit of contact with Wessels trying to set the screen, but this kid Phylon, one of the players who really filled the void when Latrell Wrightsell went down, Jim, with the Achilles back in late November.
And to see both of those guys, the big guys were not a factor in there. I think Marshallonis is going to get a little more active on the dribble, make things happen, set the pace a bit.
Saxon coughs it up. And it's a St. Mary's turnover, their first of the night.
It's kind of amazing against an Alabama defense, which has been pretty good, that they just turned it over for that first time, like you mentioned.
It's one of their strengths, one of the best teams in America in terms of taking care of the basketball. This is Sherrell. Corner three, left it short. Marshallonis the loose change.
Here he is off the dribble.
But they just desperately need him to get going offensively. He's now 1 for 8, Jim, from the field.
Yeah, and those are shots that he usually makes. I mean, he's a terrific player.
Good recognition. Diabate underneath to Sherrell. And the way this Alabama team scores, you just can't have these stretches and lulls.
And Nate Oates keeps them fresh, too, doesn't he? Substituting. It's a little bit like the game we're going to see tonight, Michigan State. Similar styles in terms of using their bench players.
Rotation 9, some nights 10 deep for Nate Oates. As we cross the 13-minute mark, second half pick and roll action. Sherrell underneath and more free throws. Nice setup by Holloway and a chance for Alabama to build on their 10-point lead.
You'll notice just the power play right here. He gets the two guys, the bigs for St. Mary's, trying to close him down. But what does he do? He gets into a position, gets his legs underneath him, and just explodes into the bodies and towards the basket. About a 50% free throw shooter here. So if you're St. Mary's, you want to make sure you're boxing out.
Sinners from Ryan Coogler, the director of Black Panther and Creed. It stars Michael B. Jordan. Only in theaters April 18th. Shot with IMAX film cameras. Sherrell from Detroit. One of 3 McDonald's All-Americans on this roster as we check in with John.
Yeah, Spiro, and obviously he isn't the guy in the front court for Alabama that's getting a lot of attention with Amori and Nelson and Diabate, but Sherrell, as this NCAA tournament progresses, if Alabama advances, could be a name to watch. He can explode like a volcano at any time, Spiro and Jim.
Mikey Lewis finally able to get one of those little mid-range J's going. And after all the bad shooting, it's an 8-point game.
Yeah, because over the last 4 games, he's been 2 for 21 from the three-point line. Nice little drive to the basket right there. Holloway setting that up.
Third basket of the night for Holloway. And the sophomore from Charlotte has pushed it back to 10. As we come up on the 12-minute mark.
Inverted right here with the bigs outs. One big out, one big in.
Saxon.
See if he goes fast when he gets into his motion in the shot. Right now, you got to go explode.
Spins, left it a little bit short. Last touched underneath by Alabama.
Timeout on the floor.
Saxon just desperately trying to get himself going on the box. St. Mary's will have it, but they're down 10 as we play second half here in Cleveland. Stay with us. Here in Cleveland, time now for non-stop protection presented by Degree.
And it's been happening in the defense in the second half with St. Mary's strips. Total of 6 steals on the game now, but they're all over it. They got to make things happen and continue to just stick to their defense. Oh, baby. Yeah, you see that? Yeah, that's a good call. As much as the defender gets bounced out of the play.
So the officials get young blood with Barrett on the attack.
They've established the position defensively to get in front of him.
Third personal against Youngblood, 4th against Alabama with 11:45 left. St. Mary's slowly trying to chip away at this Alabama lead, which stood at 13 at halftime. It's down to 10 as we move inside of 12 minutes. Pick and roll action. Ross to bounce. Saxon just hasn't been his night, at least not yet. Second turnover for Saxon. You see the foul trouble now that Nate Oates is thinking about on that Alabama sideline.
Yeah, I think St. Mary's should challenge Sears just a little bit next trip down.
Saxon's excellent defensive play.
It sure was.
Ahead of the field, Lewis.
Here's where I challenge him off the dribble a little bit, because Lewis has that talent. Keep the dribble alive and go challenge him.
Lewis, the speedy freshman.
And make Sears continue to play. Wow.
St. Mary's is 0 of 8 from deep. Sears probing. And Wessels clears. Mark Sears is now 2 of 10 from the field.
Really doesn't matter with him, though, in the last 5 minutes of the game. Whatever his stat line is, he'll take over this game if need be.
Lewis into the chest of Nelson, and Nelson got a fingertip on it. Where his defensive versatility is something to watch. Transition 3 that time won't go from Phylon.
You see that balance, though, defensively by St. Mary's to be able to corral that rebound.
A little bit of a lull in the game now. Which of these two teams can get their offense going? That is Ross. Baseline delivery.
And delay of leave the ball alone is what the officials saying.
So Ross now has 8 points. And Alabama's lead is down to 8 as we come up on the midway point of the second half. Phylon sits for Nate Oates and Holloway back in. And Jim, you're right. The way Nate Oates just shifts guys in and out just keeps everyone so fresh.
Yep. Probably get Sears a minute or 2 soon just to give him some leg break.
Here he is, the elevation, the 3, missed it. Offensive rebound, Omari. Holloway, deep shot.
This team just knows where their shots are coming from, and that's why they can rebound as well as they do on the offensive glass. Good kick out by Omari there.
And Holloway, the sophomore, now into double figures. Ross stops, lifts, a little bit short. Heady play by Saxon.
Sure was, just to get it out of there with his left hand. He couldn't get that right hand on it.
Second offensive rebound for Saxon tonight.
This guy's got to get it going a little bit.
Barrett from deep, not even close.
Hey. Look at the activity on the perimeter, making it happen.
Sears, and the official's going to get Marciulionis on a reach-in foul with 9:08 remaining. That'll be the second against Marciulionis. Fourth against the Gales. Now 4 team fouls aside, and Randy Bennett's going to take a timeout. Where they made a little bit of a push. They got as close to 8 after they were down by 13 at halftime. But some of those offensive issues persisting for St. Mary's. Will they have enough down the stretch against this vaunted Alabama side? Check the game summary. 9:08 left in regulation in this battle with a Sweet 16 trip on the line between Alabama and St. Mary's. Hard to win, hard to keep pace with a team like Bama, Jim, when you shoot like that from deep.
Yeah, they shoot 32% on the season, but they've had troubles. If you look at these last four games, 9 for 63, that adds up to.
So that 0 of 16 against Gonzaga. That was the final, the championship game of the West Coast Conference, where they lost. Sears rims it home. It's only his 3rd field goal of the night in 12 attempts.
He always figures out how to get to his power hand, his strong hand, his left hand.
Ross picks up the dribble, resets. As Alabama has pushed its lead back to where it was at halftime. Saxon going glass.
There's that quick hitter, too, from Barrett. Little screen out front, just rolls straight to the basket. Didn't delay that trip.
Saxon has had to work awfully hard. 13 points tonight. Sears just keeps on coming.
They keep letting him get to his strong hand, too. I know I keep repeating myself, but you're going to slow him down. I would force him right. And take your chances that way.
His mom, Lamika, looking out here in Cleveland. Boy, Saxon, a little bit of a bobble. He had the open layup.
He did.
After the pretty feed from Ross. And they're going to have 15 seconds to shoot.
Here it is. He comes in. He gets Amore to move a little bit. Gets off his feet. And there's that, just that little bit of a fumble cost them 2 points.
Substitution by Nate Oates. Darion Reed has come back into the game. Here comes Marciulionis going to the rack, and he's going to shoot a pair of free throws. Most points St. Mary's has given up this season is 75. It came in a win against Washington State. So obviously they haven't contended with a team like Alabama. So they hold on here down the stretch.
A little tricky move there to kind of hold himself and freeze himself until that back defender came over the top. 80% free throw shooter.
I had a chance to visit with Randy Bennett yesterday. He was talking about Marciulionis and told a great story. Relationship that he had built with his father, of course, the Basketball Hall of Famer Šarūnas Marciulionis. Invited him to attend one of his camps years ago in Lithuania. Randy went over. He said Šarūnas came, picked him up at the airport. He had his 1-year-old in the back of the car, no seatbelt. Šarūnas whipping around the streets. That little boy turned out to be Augustus. And who would have thought all these years later? My goodness! Omori! Just vicious.
Sears with the delivery also.
Omori, by the way, in the tournament, still hasn't missed the shot. He's 12 of 12. Marciulionis, finally, first 3 of the night for St. Mary's. Nelson into the lane. They're going to get Marauskis, and free throws coming up for the Crimson Tide.
Alabama continues to just drive it to the basket. Watch Sears. Does he put this in a good spot? Well, pretty acrobatic. Look at this, a little reverse action.
Watch whip-around coverage of all men's games with Fast Break, presented by Nissan in the March Madness live out. Free throws for Grant Nelson and Alabama as the madness continues here in Cleveland. 7:21 left, second half. And the Crimson Tide looking to build on an 11-point lead.
Yeah, pretty good balance by them also, with 3 guys with 10 or more points and 3 guys with 8 or more points.
Alabama's first ever trip to the Final Four last year. How far can this version go? 26 wins with 13-5. They finished third place in the gauntlet that was the SEC this season. They've matched their largest lead of the night. Here's Morauskas, corner, pocket, three for St. Mary's.
Yeah, you know what, too? I was just going to say, Spiro, that with the way they're struggling from the outside, if you're Randy Bennett, you can't tell your guys not to shoot open shots. And I think what he probably said to them at that point was, wipe everything off behind us. We have about 7 and change to play. If you get that shot, you have to take it. Take it with some confidence. Forget about your numbers on the night.
So St. Mary's missed their first 9 threes. They've hit their last 2. As we hit the 7-minute mark in the second half, Sears dribbles it off of his foot, somehow keeps it in play, hounded by Marciulionis. Knifes in, good deflection. It was Ross got a piece, 14 seconds to shoot.
You see, Sears is good going to his right, but I'm pretty sure right now I would continue to jump him and force him to the right to make plays going to the right rather than to his strong hand, especially down the stretch.
Holloway against Ross, gets a Nelson screen, 3 to shoot. Nelson has to work quickly, misses, rebound underneath Barrett.
Yeah, nice grab by Barrett, too. He was not in terrific position to start, but he made up for it with his footwork. I'd say this is a pretty big possession at both ends right here.
Marciulionis leans in, and he's going to shoot free throws. It's a veteran play to try to draw the contact. And now the Gales a chance to cut it to 8.
Yeah, because look where he has to get that contact. He's away from the basket instead of being able to turn that little angle to get closer to the basket. So that's just a smart veteran play.
And by the way, Alabama now is out of fouls. That was their 6th with 6:18 remaining. So Marciulionis, first Gale since Steve Gray to win back-to-back Conference Player of the Year awards. Randy Bennett had to recruit him via Zoom. It was during COVID. Had to show him the campus via video. Of course, all the craziness of that summer.
Yep.
And as Randy said yesterday, this kid wasn't an overnight sensation. He needed the developmental time. There were times I wanted to play him as a freshman. He wasn't quite ready. But what a leader, what a player he's become. They've had some really good point guards over the years. He could be one of the very best.
Yeah, Randy is hoping that he can step it up.
Sears. 10 points for the 2-time All-American. Marciulionis starting to catch fire for the Gales.
Just like the other night, remember when he had 4 fouls at about the 7-minute mark or so, he really started to take over. That might have been a snap.
What a sit-up, Sears! And Omori unleashed.
But see, once again, Spiro, he's going down the left side of the floor. You just can't stop him with his decision-making that way, so why not take a chance going the other way with him?
Gales just can't seem to string together some stops and a costly turnover. Ahead of the pack, Nelson taking their breath away.
There was not a whole lot of room for that pass to get on target right where he put it. What a run out that was on a miscue by St. Mary's. Not really forced, just mishandled. There's a pitch to the bottom, goes straight up.
Saxon under control. He had Nelson on his back. But they look up, they're still down 10. A little bit errant pass from Sears. He had Omori. Another big trip here for St. Mary's as we cross the 5-minute mark. They're down 10. Saxon extends. Omori got him, and it's last touch by the Gales. Just a sensational defensive recovery by Omori.
Yeah, just keep pushing it down, getting it into the middle. Oh, that was a terrific find. And this second one, there isn't a whole lot of room right there to finish that off. Great run out for Nelson.
So a couple of substitutions. Oates sits Omori. And Aiden Sherrill has checked back into the game for the Crimson Tide. Sears underneath, flick at the rim, Wessels the loose change. St. Mary's with possession. They're down 10 as we come up on the 4-minute mark. Here comes Ross to the rim, misses point blank. Wessels, and he's going to shoot free throws. But it looks like Ross is hurt now.
There's a lot of traffic in there when he went towards the basket.
Ross had to leave the game to get his ankle retaped in the first half. We got the report from John. Looks like he's okay. And so Wessels is going to shoot a couple of free throws.
Yeah, I think it was just the second guy whacked him and knocked him to the floor. One of the things to think about, too, you're down 10, possibly 8 if he makes a couple of free throws here. This pace that St. Mary's plays at, are there enough possessions if they take 20+ seconds off the clock with their slow down pace? May have to uptick this a little bit unless they get a stop or two in a hurry.
Boy, and Wessels now approaching a double-double. Now 12 points to go along with his 8 rebounds. Every Path Has a Price, starring Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. Don't miss the new season of the Emmy-winning HBO original series, The Last of Us, streaming April the 13th, exclusively on Max. 1 of 2 for Wessels, and then his last touch by Diabate.
How about that effort by Barrett coming across just then? Not quitting on a play. Probably shouldn't use the word quit when you're talking about Barrett, right? He's just all over the place.
He is as blue-collar as it gets. How far the young man has come in his career. Marshall Lonis lets it fly short. And a rebound by Sherrill. So St. Mary's unable to capitalize on the extra possession. Sears. Sherrill overplayed by Saxon, who's going to be hit with his 3rd personal. We are inside of the 4-minute mark left here in Cleveland. Randy Bennett trying to get his program into the second weekend, getting all they want from Nate Oates and Bama. As their game reset with under 4 minutes left, both teams are out of fouls. And Alabama, with this 9-point lead, they have gotten a lot of their damage, Jim, around the basket.
Yeah, they're very good with their bigs, and obviously the guards have to set that up, but the bigs just wait it out and never take their eye off the ball. This was a doozy right there, too, with Vilon just putting that right up there for Nelson to finish that one off. I didn't see that ball get to his hands.
And he's not done yet. They turn him back. Then they get him a second time.
Wow, that was a great set. And how about the defensive effort by St. Mary's to be awake on that play?
Boy, if St. Mary's makes a run, remember that sequence right there. A couple of layups that they take away. Giant possession right here for St. Mary's. Wessels. Drop steps, goes glass, missed it. Barrett, 5 to shoot. Ross doesn't recognize, finally does, and he doesn't get it on the rim. But that little hesitation cost them, and Alabama's going to get it back. Let's check in with John.
All right, Spiro, the Alabama staff, which is praising Alabama's players for the job that it's doing on the glass. This has been a tremendous rebounding game for Alabama compared to Friday. They also said, guys, no threes, keep rebounding the ball, and we will advance. Spiro and Jim.
Chess match between these two coaching staffs. Sears, boy, 2 defenders hit the deck. Man advantage, Vilon. Body check from Saxon. That's going to put St. Mary's over the limit, and a 1-and-1 here for LeBaron Vilon, the young freshman from Mobile.
Yeah, good smarts by him, too, when you see a 7-footer coming your way. Picking up his 4th foul. Saxon just out of position there because he had to go out and challenge that potential 3-point shot.
What a season this young man put together. His mom, Alicia, here in Cleveland, cheering on her boy. Out of Link Academy in Missouri. SEC all-freshman team. He was a consensus top 35 pick. Sensational high school career. Mr. Basketball in the state of Alabama. Some of that blue chip talent for Nate Oates. And he has given the Crimson Tide an 11-point lead as we are inside of 3 minutes. Saxon.
Taking a lot of time off the clock on their possessions.
Saxon the spin underneath Wessels. Youngblood with the rip.
Saxon has to go up with that. No way around it. You just can't hand it to somebody 2 feet away, his same size, but you have to use your size to go over people.
Sears trying to fend off Ross. So crafty, just the artistry of his game, the angles, the footwork. And a one and make it 2 shots for Sears coming up.
See, I think he has this. He has Nelson out of position right there. I know Amore's back there protecting behind Nelson, but I think you have to get yourself to the free throw line if you're Saxon in that one.
So the officials say Sears in the act. You watch his game, and maybe a little Jalen Brunson.
Oh, yeah.
Just the mastery of all the fundamentals with his offensive game. Just so pretty to watch.
Yeah, it's interesting. Brunson took his game. They used to with Jay Wright. I know they used to invert the offense and put a lot of their guards down low. And part of that became their success, I think. And now you watch Brunson play. He does it at 15 feet away also.
TNT is your home for NASCAR this summer. Tune in beginning June the 28th. TNT and stream on Max.
I think you got to uptick it right now. If you're St. Mary's, you can't take 25 seconds off the clock anymore.
They're 2 of 12 from 3.
Wow.
Costly mistake, Marshalunas. Up the floor, here comes Phylon Wessels, and they're going to say goaltend. And right now, the Gales are on the ropes. 15 points down.
They may review this too, Spear. This might have been close to going up. Let's see. Hard to tell from that angle. It's going up. It's going up.
Appeared to be just hanging at its apex.
Exactly.
Terrific officiating crew. Don Daly, Ray Natilli, Randy Richardson here in Cleveland. As they will go to the replay monitor here, looking at the same angles you are at home. Wessels coming over to help, but Marshalunas was quick. He may have gotten a fingertip on it himself before Wessels came over. Gene Steratore, how do you see this sequence?
I think that the ball is on its upward trajectory, honestly, Spiro. And the last look that we just got, I was thinking initially that it was over the cylinder. Yep. Our last look, to me, felt like it may be outside of the cylinder. I think that's the piece of it that would make it goaltending. I don't think it's one that's coming down. To me, if it's a goaltend, staying goaltend, it's because the ball's over the cylinder.
Gene,
I feel like this is still.
Gene, let me ask you a question. If it looked like, and look, I don't have 2010 vision, it looked like Marshalunas may have gotten it first before Wessels came over. Does that wipe away a potential goaltend if there's a second deflection?
No, it would still be where the ball is when this second one happens in relation to the cylinder or whether it's on its downward flight. The early tip doesn't absolve the remainder of that deflection.
Yeah, and Gene, what's interesting with these replays, which are a good catch, the ones overhead, I always look to see if you can see any of the coloring of the floor below, because that would mean that it's not over the rim. So you have that little separation there. I think you're spot on, Gene. We'll see what they call.
I think that too, Jim, and then you've got to be careful with the overhead that it's not a distorted, view. This feels like a pretty clean look to me. Doesn't look like we have any bend on the lens or anything like that may distort that ball in relation to the cylinder. This one looks like a pretty clear shot, and to me, doesn't appear to be over that circle.
Yeah, because between the rim and the body of the defender, you could see his shoulder through that little gap between the ball and the rim, in my opinion.
Well, we agree, Jimmy, but that may not really matter at the end of the day. But if we can get Spiro to jump in, at least we got a crew of 3 that thinks it's okay. Well, if Spiro thinks so.
Gene, I know who we're blaming if we got it wrong. He's sitting right to my left.
I'm going to stop asking my silly officiating questions. We appreciate Gene hopping on with us as the officials are still, by the way, they went away from the monitor. They had a conversation for a couple of seconds. Now they've gone back to the table. So it looks like they've got the call here. Maybe trying to figure something else out with 2:07 left. Looks like they're still peering down at that replay monitor. Again, Don Daly is our lead official here. Now it looks like they're sorting through, making the announcement to the score table. And here's Don Daly.
after review, the call has been reversed, blocked shot. No possession of the ball, so we go to the AP, which will be Alabama's ball on the baseline. Clocks are good.
Okay. They called that one off, but they still retain the basketball.
So they'll take the 2 points off the board. We appreciate Gene hopping on with us.
And we appreciate the effort that Wessel's just made on that play.
Indeed. St. Mary's trying to claw their way back in a 13-point hole with 2:07 left.
They tried an alley-oop out of the last out-of-bounds play.
Keep in mind, both teams are out of fouls. Inbound in the corner to Nelson. Winner of this one moving on to Newark, New Jersey in the Sweet 16. Boy, Nelson nearly left his feet.
He just stays with that left foot on the floor, though, using his size. All right, how do we get this mismatch here for Sears? Sacks it on him.
Sears full head of steam. That's a scary sight. Underneath, outside, Nelson. A little bit too much.
Now you got to push. No question about it. You have to push.
We come up on 90 seconds. Marshallonis, reset Ross. Slithers inside. Lewis, corner three.
Mikey Lewis.
Massive shot for the Gales. 1:24 left. We got a 10-point game here in Cleveland. A lot of history with Nate Oates and Mark Sears in this building. Alabama MAC champions. You know about Nate Oates and his roots. Of course, all those successful years at Buffalo. Mark Sears, who began his collegiate run at Ohio University, about a 3-hour drive from where we are here. Trying to take this program back to a potential Final Four. 1:24 left. And Randy Bennett's bunch trying to hold on and get a little bit closer. The inbound quickly to Holloway.
They start to foul this early in the clock. You might have to, unless they let it wind down. They're taking their chances, though, aren't they, out front? They want to foul now.
Underneath, Holloway bumped. 1-1. It's the 9th team foul against St. Mary's. Looks like Omari will check back in for Alabama. And Aiden Holloway, Jim, who is a 78% free throw shooter, to the free throw line.
Yeah, I've always looked at it, if you're down 3 possessions or more and there's about 1:20 on the clock or 1:10, I think you extend the game as much as you can, and what you're hoping for is just 1, if not 2 missed free throws, but I think that's pretty much all you can do. And then every strategy goes right out the window if guys step up and make free throws.
77-66 with 1:09 remaining.
Jaron Stevenson returns for Alabama.
Jaron Stevenson back in as Nate Oates continues to go offense for defense.
Get some guys, another guy who can clear the defensive boards.
Here comes Ross. Omari holding tight underneath. And St. Mary's running out of clock here in Cleveland. 11th rebound for Omari.
And he shoots it at 85%, so he's probably Sears not going to give this ball up unless he's forced to. Is that a timeout?
Alabama.
Looks like Randy Bennett's going to wave the white flag as their sensational season is going to come to an end in the round of 32 here in Cleveland. And the Alabama faithful can start to celebrate behind their bench. In the meantime, the emotions on that St. Mary's bench. Incredible season, outright champs in the West Coast Conference for the 2nd straight year in the regular season.
And you'd like to see coaches do that too when they sensed obviously the game is over. Get some of these guys who practice, do a lot of work, scout teams, etc., to get them into a game in the NCAA tournament.
Stevenson to the rack. Well, how crazy is this? St. Mary's hasn't given up 80 points, hadn't in 105 games. And it has happened tonight against Alabama. Final 18 seconds. A little floater underneath as Ashton Hardaway lost it. And it is over. It's a Crimson tidal wave, and it is headed to Newark. Alabama is through to the Sweet 16. 80-66, the final, as they have punched their ticket to the Sweet 16 for a third straight year and a fourth time in 5 years under Nate Oates. And it will be Alabama and BYU on Thursday in Newark. St. Mary's, Jim, made their push, but every time they started to show some life, Alabama just shut the door.
Yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things where I think the depth overall of Alabama played into this game, and Nate Oates does a marvelous job of making sure he has fresh legs on the floor at all times.
John Rothstein standing by with Nate Oates.
All right, Nate, congratulations. How did you keep them at bay the entire second half?
Our offense, we got some transition buckets. You know, we were able to get our bigs on some lobs. I thought we got out in transition a little bit. I mean, they cut. What did they cut it to at one point?
9 points. Yeah.
Nine was that was the closest. Yeah, they're good. They're tough. I mean, you know, I don't think anybody's played at the pace we play at against them. So I don't know what the possessions ended up being, but I thought we were able to get it at our pace a little bit more. I think it's the first time somebody scored 80 on them all year.
Yeah, 6 guys in double figures from there for you. Why is your balance such a weapon?
Yeah, I think it's hard to focus on anybody. I mean, he's the first team All-American. He's comfortable making passes, getting everybody involved. So, yeah, I mean, you look at it like our leading scorer had 13. We had 6 guys between 10 and 13. It's hard to focus on one guy doing that. Our team, our Mudita's been good this year.
BYU is next. Your thoughts on the Cougars?
Shoot, I mean, Kevin's done an unbelievable job this year. They play at NBA style. They've spaced the floor. We're going to have to really guard. They're good. I've watched him a little bit because I was interested to see what he did in college, but I got to get locked in and watch a lot more.
Appreciate it. Safe travels to Newark.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Roll Tide.
Spiro.
All right, John, congratulations to Nate Oates. They are moving on to Jersey in the Sweet 16 as they win it 80-66. Tune into True TV and TBS now for live second-round games. Coming up next on TNT, it'll be New Mexico and Michigan State. For our producer, Steve McKee, our director, Mike Arnold, Jim Spanarkel, John Rothstein, Spiro Dinas saying so long. We'll see you a little bit later on TNT.